Welcome to Restoration of Spirit. I'm Janet Kohl, and this is my dog, Roxy. Today we're going to meet one of her friends, Max the Green Lab, a recycled dog who recycles. So stay with us. By definition, restoration of spirit is getting back to the life we were meant to live. We do this primarily in two ways, through self-care and self-discovery. And once we learn what our dreams and our passions are, some of us need a jump start to change. Restoration of spirit is about learning to discover and having the courage to live your dreams. Only through our passion can we live a life of joy. Each year, over 4 million dogs are euthanized and disposed of in landfills. Joining us today will be Keith Sanderson and his very special dog, Max the Pooch, who he saved from a shelter. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Janet.
Hi, Max.
Can you say hello to Janet, Max?
Well, Max is the amazing recycled dog who recycles. So can you tell me why is he considered a recycled dog?
Well, Max is a recycled dog because he was rescued. Originally, he was turned in by his owners to animal control in Waukegan, and from there, we adopted him. And so he's rescued, but he's really recycled, because he would have ended up in a landfill otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really interesting. A lot of people don't even stop to think that when a dog is put down, as us humans like to call ending the life of a dog, being put down, where they end up.
Yeah, they end up, a lot of them end up in a landfill, about 4 million of them each year, and most of those end up with cans and bottles and all the other things we throw out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just an incredible number if you think about it, and that's just dogs you're talking about. That doesn't even include cats or other animals that are disposed of in that way.
That's right, Janet. That's just dogs, and it's also a tremendous cost because it's hundreds of dollars for each dog that's found. They're cared for, they're kept, somebody has to put them down. So it's quite a bit of money, just even if you don't like dogs. I mean, there's a lot of waste there.
Yeah. Tell me how most animals come to a place like a shelter or a pound, or why does somebody get rid of the animal in order, for it to end up in one of these places?
Well, a lot of animals end up there because their owners get so angry at them that, in all truth,
they don't like this?
They don't like that. They expect a dog to be a robot and expect them to behave, and they don't spend any time with them. Come here, buddy. Come here. That's a good boy.
He's agreeing with you.
Yeah, he's showing them. And so they get this animal, cute little roly-poly animal, at about 5 or 6 weeks of age, and all of a sudden they're a teenager, an unruly teenager, and they haven't disciplined them at all, and so they drop them off or just abandon them. And many, many dogs end up that way.
So you think most of them come from people who just had an impulse buy on a puppy, or they didn't know how to train a dog, or the dog just kind of grew and got out of hand and they didn't know what to do with it, so they just said, we can't handle this, and got rid of it?
That's right, in the suburbs in particular. Now, in rural areas there will be feral dogs, and in the south there will be dogs that have just abandoned. But in the suburbs, a lot of the dogs, most of them, come from people who just get to abandon them because they bought them on impulse.
Yeah, and in the city there's a whole nother epidemic with all the pit bull breeding and fighting, and a lot of those dogs end up neglected and confiscated eventually too, right?
Exactly, exactly. They misbehave like this guy is, or they don't pan out, or hey, yeah, they don't pan out, and they just get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a challenge to society what to do with them.
Yeah.
And even if you can't adopt one, and you want to do something, there's still a lot of things you can do. You can donate money, of course. Shelters are looking for newspapers. They're looking for blankets in the winter for the dogs. They're looking for food donations. Mm-hmm. So there's quite a bit you can do.
Those are some good suggestions. Well, tell us how you found him specifically, because you weren't even planning on buying a dog, right?
No, we had had a dog for 14 years and then put him down. And we had thought that, well, we'll wait a while. And we went out to get a kitten for our granddaughter. Our daughter had given us permission to get her a kitten. So we were out at Orphans of the Storm shelter, and I happened to go by the shelter, the Kennel 25, and saw him, and he was just traumatized. Mm. He had come from a basement. We think he'd been kept in a basement all his life, and all of a sudden he was...
And he was how old?
He was 6 months.
6 months.
6 months. And full of energy and just traumatized because all these other dogs were around and everybody was making so much noise. So, but he just had those eyes, just looked so great. We just said, hey, Max. And I went back to my wife, and she came out and looked at him and said, oh, we can't leave him here.
So even though you're not really advising it, he kind of was a sort of an impulse buy.
Right. Well, we had been thinking about it, but what we did is we made arrangements to take him. But before we took him, we went home, we got a dog crate, we got the dog food, we got the dog bowls, the collars and leashes, and had everything prepared. Mm-hmm. So anyone who gets an animal should never be impulse, and even if it's a planned purchase, they always should make sure they have all the equipment, mm-hmm. everything the dog needs.
Well, what are the benefits of getting a dog from a shelter or a pound as opposed to from a breeder or a pet store?
Well, you know, the benefits are you're taking a dog like this and because when I took Max, we made room for another dog that might have been put down. And so that's one of the big benefits. The other thing is if you're looking for a specific breed, you can 25% of the dogs at pounds are purebreds. Mm. And so, hey, sit. Can you sit?
Well, that's interesting, and that's something most people don't think about. You know, they kind of associate like mutts that aren't wanted going to a pound, and that's what you're going to get there, and the dogs are going to be kind of emotionally damaged or aggressive or have some sort of a problem. But really, 25% of them are purebreds, and you can find a decent dog at a shelter.
That's right. Now, if I go to a shelter, I may not see 25% of them being purebreds, but that's because the purebreds go quicker. So the population at any one time may be greater than 25% purebreds.
So maybe people should go several times in order to find the perfect dog at a shelter or a pound.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because if you may have to search. The other place to go if you want to breed, and you can check with Breed Rescue. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, reputable breeders.
Right.
And they're a good place to get a dog if you can't find one elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't know that there are breed-specific rescue groups that you can find online and things like that, as opposed to just going to a shelter or pound looking for a purebred, that you can actually find a quality dog that, you know, maybe somebody got rid of it at 6 months or a year, like Max's age, or some of them are older, some are abused, and then they're rehabilitated through these groups in order to become a quality pet. And they're all tested to make sure that they're safe to be with the new owner. And then what other tips do you have as far as looking for a dog if they want to get it from a breeder or, you know, some other reputable place? Like you talked about avoiding puppy mills and pet stores that buy from puppy mills and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, one thing a lot of people don't realize is that when you see that cute little puppy in the window, in fact, remember how much is that doggie in the window?
Right.
Well, who was that who sang that? I can't remember. But
everybody knows the song. Nobody can remember who sang it.
But she has come out with a new song that doesn't ask how much the doggie in the window is, because she's learned that those cute little puppies in the window come from puppy mills, over 90% according to the Humane Society. And the bad thing about puppy mills is they're terrible conditions. It's almost like a concentration camp for dogs. And the mom
Right.
dogs are kept as breeding stock and bred 2 or 3 times a year, which any
Which is way too much for any dog. Yeah.
Exactly. And any reputable dealer, breeder would tell you that. And then when they don't have good litters, they just destroy them.
Right.
And they don't even euthanize them like you would like expect at a vet. A lot of times they put them in a homemade gas chamber, and it's really
It's
terrible.
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Well, you actually come from a dog breeding background, don't you?
Right, right. My father,
As do I.
My father bred beagle hounds for field trials, and that's where I was brought up with dogs, and began to really understand them. And in fact, last winter I won a writing contest writing about a dog that had been my first dog. So they've been part of my life.
Well, since we were talking about why some of the dogs end up in these places, and the key reason is that they really weren't trained properly, they got out of hand, the family couldn't handle them, they didn't know how to deal with it, they didn't know how to train the dog. How important do you think that the training is? Because I think that learning how to train a dog is huge, and that you really need to take that step if you're going to take the responsibility on of buying a dog. You have to take on the secondary responsibility of learning how to train the dog and doing the training, because a lot of people think the training just comes secondhand, and it really doesn't. Not every dog is just going to automatically sit, and people don't know, how do I get them to sit? What do you do? And I worked with an excellent dog trainer that trained me, that taught me how to train dogs, and once you learn the correct techniques, you can keep that for life and train every dog you own after that, according to those techniques. So what's your feeling on that?
That's exactly right. I mean, so many times I'll be talking to somebody who's gotten a new puppy when we're out for a walk, and they say, we're going to take him to the dog school. And then I'll ask them a couple weeks how things are going. They'll say, he hasn't learned a thing.
Right.
And I want to say, have you learned anything? And I'd go a step further, is that even before you get a dog, maybe, and even before you learn about what breed you want, maybe what you should do is, a person should do, is really think about the commitment they're making. You're making a 14-year commitment,
Right.
a little shorter, a little longer, and you're going to have some stuff destroyed, and you're going to have some nights that you're up. It's like it's like having a member of the family, and if you're not ready to make that commitment,
Right.
get a canary.
Yeah, exactly. Even those are messy.
Yeah, right.
But you're right, because when you get a new puppy, they are like having a new baby. You are up at night. You are around the clock. You are doing the house training before the obedience training. You really are on that cycle, and you have to be committed to that. You have to have time in your schedule for those sleepless nights up front, and then be able to, do the obedience training every day consistently to get the dog to be, just like we have to teach our kids how to be responsible, respectable people, you have to teach your dog the same thing. And a lot of people kind of skip that step and have crazy, unruly dogs.
Yeah, just like this guy. But he's really being a good guy, and you're absolutely right. I mean, where we walk the dog, there's people who have golden retrievers or labs or other big dogs, and they jump on you and they say, oh, I don't know what he does that.
Yeah.
Well, the reason he does it
Because you've let him.
And you've let him. Yeah, just like you. Yeah.
So what was it like when you first brought Max home from the shelter?
It was incredibly hectic. Imagine a 6-month-old hyper lab with absolutely no training and who understood nothing and had probably never been out of the basement. In fact, the first time we took him for a walk, everything, he'd hear an airplane and he'd go and look up, or he'd see a car and he'd go like this. So you knew that he hadn't been outside very much.
Right. It's like a whole new world for him.
Right.
Excuse me.
And he was a project, and that's one thing anybody should again be aware. If you take a shelter dog, no matter the breed, is that they're not going to be automatically obeying. Some may be, some may not. And you can test them, and you should really if you're not prepared for a project. Fortunately, since I'd had dogs, I realized what we were getting into, so I was prepared for it.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like a restoration. You're getting the animal back to what he was meant to be, and the life that he deserved to live.
Exactly, exactly, because that's what happens so many times. You'll find dogs that were bought, and the people had no idea what they were for, so except they thought they should be sort of seen and not heard, and so they never really got to be dogs. You know, and they can do a lot of things, but they still are dogs, and we got to let them be dogs.
Yeah, so it sounds like it took a lot of energy in the beginning because he just wasn't exposed to anything, possibly abused or just neglected, left alone, no training.
Exactly. In fact, one thing, what makes us think he'd never been out of the basement or hadn't been, is we thought we'd keep his crate in the basement because it's a nice finished basement and everything. And we put his crate down there, and I said, "Come on." And I started, and he stopped at the door.
He was like, "I'm just not going into the basement."
So I just took him like this. I just took him by the collar, and that's the only time he ever showed that I might bite you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because he was mean. It was because he was just scared.
Yeah.
And so it was a torture chamber to him. It was a dungeon. And again, those are the kind of things, if you get a dog from a rescue, is they may have some background, so be aware of that.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of like the dog whisperer. You intuitively knew there was something about the basement that he just shouldn't go down there. There was something, you know, some issue for him because you knew he wasn't an aggressive animal.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, it doesn't take, you know, if you can figure out a 2-year-old, you should be able to figure out a dog, but so many of us miss that point.
Yeah.
You know, we think it's a big mystery, and you know, if you have the patience with a 2-year-old and are willing to tell them again and again to do something or ask them to do something, then if you remember that when you get a dog, you should be no problems.
People just don't do their research or their homework, and that's another cause of dogs ending up in shelters.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's a big responsibility. It's patience, and I would tell people maybe watch a friend's dog for a weekend if you want to get it. Oh, that's good. You get that out
and
of your
dogs get
system?
sick.
Yeah.
We forget, just like children, dogs get sick. So then, how are you going to feel when the dog's
Right.
got his health issues all over your house? Somebody has to clean that up. Somebody has to take the dog to the vet. Somebody needs to know how to care for it. So all these things are really important to think about before purchasing a dog.
Right. And Max, believe it or not, is really well behaved, and you see how he is right now. So if you don't really train a dog, see, he's mischievous and he's bored. And this is a good example of what happens when dogs get bored. He hasn't had as much exercise today as he should have had. Hey, buddy. And so now he's saying, "Hey, I need to run."
Saying, "Walk me."
Walk me. Can you
Attention.
sit? Yeah.
So back to the recycling topic, because like now we understand why he's recycled, because you prevented him from going into a landfill just like a bottle or a can or any of our other garbage. So why is he the recycle dog who recycles? What's his special talent?
His special talent, besides barking and being
Besides being cute.
Yeah, well, he wants to be in the camera all the time, is he finds and retrieves bottles and cans, and it uses his retriever instincts, and that's one of the reasons why I taught him, is he's a retriever, and when we have dogs, we should also try to fulfill their breed, what their instincts and how they're wired for their breed. So in Max's case, he's a lab, and he was bred to be a retriever, so he retrieves bottles. So
you taught him specifically to pick up bottles, cans, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I did. And originally I was going to teach him to pick up all litter, but there's some really nasty stuff that people leave behind.
Yeah. You don't want it in his mouth.
And that's really one reason you shouldn't litter. I mean, when you leave something behind that's a food item, someone's dog can walk by and get sick, or wildlife can get entrapped in litter and things. If we all picked up a piece of litter each day, that'd be 200 million pieces that there wouldn't be around to clog up our rivers and oceans. And anyway, so I decided that he would just pick up cans and bottles. And we pick up quite a few.
So you carry a recycling bag around with you on your walks, I've noticed, so that when he brings you the bottles, he can put them in the bag.
Yep.
And he can also throw them into the garbage can, I've heard, right?
That's right. Yeah, he's picked up that trick, and that's a lot of fun, and it amazes people. We were out doing that the other day, and there were some school kids who walked by, and they were just, "Did you see that dog? Wow, he's recycling." And that's a good message, because we do go to schools and make appearances, and it gets their attention, and then we can talk about the bigger picture.
But even just when anybody, especially kids, can see him out on a walk picking up a can or a bottle, it makes them stop and think, hey, I'm not going to throw mine on the ground. And look, if a dog can take the effort to put it into a garbage can or a recycling bin, so can I.
That's right, because as Max A. Pooch says, recycling is so easy even a dog can do it. So, can he? Yeah.
And so that's the big message here, really, is that recycling is so easy that a dog can do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was in the Huffington Post, and one reader wrote and said he must be a left-leaning liberal lab. And I wrote back saying, no, you don't have to lean to the left or to the right to recycle. You can just bend over straight ahead and pick up the bottle. So, and that's what Max does. You don't have to be to the left or the right. It's something that everybody can do, and it makes a tremendous difference in the environment.
Well, you said that there's a little bit more to the story. He doesn't only recycle cans and bottles. You said that he recycled you.
That's right. And that's when we were talking about having a dog before, it almost sounded like too much trouble. So what's the positive end of it? Well, we started doing this, and I'm a cancer survivor, and about 2 days after I came back from major surgery and recuperated, my job was terminated. And at 55, it's tough to find another job, and I found other things, but nothing quite like what I had had. And I felt really down, and we got Max. And as we started this recycling thing, he gave me he lifted my spirit. I said, we're going to go out and show people that you don't have to do big things to change the world. You can change the world one step at a time, simply by making, in our case, helping create awareness about the problem with dogs and the problem with recycling.
Yeah, and one paw print at a time, right?
One paw print at a time. That's right.
And so you were down in the dumps. You were overcoming your battle with cancer. You lost your job, and having that animal spirit around you just.
Yeah, because
he restored your spirit. He made you feel better, and just getting you out of the house too, I'm sure.
Exactly, and here's why. I mean, even though he's being irritating right now, he's such an optimist. He's so persistent. He just knows that if he keeps this up, he's going to get his way. And it's not that he's spoiled. I mean, he'll just keep on doing something and has such a good spirit and so positive. It just rubs off on you.
Well, speaking of optimism, I think that's one of the greatest things about dogs that you just don't get with cats or other animals, is that you could leave the house for 5 minutes, you could forget your keys, and you come back, and there they are, wagging their tail, all excited to see you, like you've been gone all day.
That's right.
So even just walking room to room, or sometimes they follow you around, but they're just always happy, and they're always happy to see you. And it's really hard, I think, to stay sad around a dog, and I think that really can help people if they're overcoming health issues or have some sort of other hardship in their life. That's why they're using dogs for animal therapy so much, because they do lift our spirits. They do make us feel better, and I think they're a great gift.
Exactly. One of Max's buddies, Tucker, is a service dog who goes over and sees seniors and visits them. And according to his owner, the seniors are just really happy to see him, because a lot of them were dog owners, and they can't have dogs where they live now. So that's really an incredible part of them. And we have to remember that we've evolved for tens of thousands of years with these animals. And people say, well, the dog seems to know what I'm going to do. He does, because they've learned to watch us for every little signal, every little thing, and they really can read us, as you know, as being a dog owner too.
And they're so intuitive. I mean, the fact that dogs like to be pet so much, just to be touched, I think that's another lesson for us to realize that, like everybody needs touch, And I think there's something therapeutic too about just petting your dog. You know, they know they need it. They know they need to be touched, you know?
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's proven that your health is better. There's also a statistic, I forget how many pounds, but a typical dog owner will lose up to 14 pounds the first year they have a dog if they walk it, and don't change their dietary habits, but just that additional walking. I know I lost 15 pounds the first year I had Max.
Wow.
Because he's an hour every morning and a half an hour every afternoon. And so I said, you know, get a dog with the health club. But
yeah, exactly. Good motto. Get a dog with the health club. Well, that probably helped with your own health too, just overcoming cancer.
Right.
So how are you doing now?
Doing fine. It's been over 5 years and no problems. And
Good.
so we're really
So he
happy.
really did restore your spirit.
Yeah, he did. We're having a lot of fun. We're getting a lot of people saying, wow, what's with that animal? And get to do things that I wouldn't have been doing, like talking with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not only did he restore your spirit, but he really started a whole new career path for you, or at least a mini project, right?
Well, no, it's a career path. I've been in marketing and advertising all my life, and so I decided to take my skills and see where Max and I could go together on an adventure.
So you mentioned schools, so that you go to schools to teach children about recycling. What else are you doing with him?
Schools, we've been on a couple radio talk shows. A couple recycling companies are interested in perhaps using them as a mascot or exhibit
that's great.
at trade shows, and so it's a lot of fun. And every day is somebody's calling up and saying, "Hey, would you, could you?" And somebody else is interested in us maybe doing a Max a Pooch biscuit.
Oh, wow.
So who knows where it'll go, but
Well, good.
that's part of the fun and part of the adventure of letting not just the dog, but people and other things into your lives rather than staying like this.
Right. So he's continuing to get you out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're spreading a great message with about recycling. So thanks for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, Janet.
Today we learned that recycling is so easy, even a dog can do it. But remember, recycling is everybody's responsibility. Until next time, I'm Janet Kohl. We have such a beautiful day today. It really restores my spirit just being outside.
Yeah, it really is great. A real bonus for October.
What's something that you do to restore your spirit?
Well, I take Max for a walk, and he's got a ball, and I have the chucker, and we throw it. Maybe we can go over here and I can show you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
If you're looking for a new pet that your family will cherish every day, consider adopting from a shelter. Shelters are the best places to find a new pet. That's where you'll discover healthy, loyal, and loving animals, eager to become a part of your family. A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet, so bring home your new buddy today. To find out more, visit theshelterpetproject.org.